Okay, so there was a question about how to answer the industry market overview for our region. And that's an excellent question. So we're going to start with the management databases, and we're going to actually use three of them. So I'll try to talk as quickly as I can, but I really wanted to give you some examples. So I'm going to use IBIS World, then the Economic Census, and then Nexis Uni. So I'm going to start with IBIS World first. And this is going to give me some national information on my industry. So I could certainly just type in a keyword up at the top, or I can search by the different sectors. So I'm going to go into food service because the question was specifically about restaurants. And I'm going to pick single location full service restaurants. That seems to be a good bet for small businesses, perhaps. And this, again, this is a national overview. So as I'm scrolling around, it gives me a very good, like if you look down the right-hand side, there's all kinds of statistics. And I'm going to skip to the performance section and look at all the information that's here. The revenue, um, it gives me a key takeaway. They're really good explaining what all this data means. For example, what is driving current industry performance? They give you, the idea that small businesses are threatened by competitors. We're buying locally sourced food more and more in restaurants. COVID-19 affected restaurants. And then also restaurants happen to have a very high volatility. So it is a risk to go into the restaurant business, and it explains even key success, how to overcome those risks. So, and this is all based on the data that's been collected. They show you an outlook for this particular industry, like the future of it. And then if we skip around a little bit, I can also look at the number of employees that each business might have. So you could see 17 people per business on average. So that seems like it would be your smaller restaurants probably. I can look at business statistics here and then also the profit. So lots of good information. And I didn't even go through all the tabs on the left yet. So if I click products and markets, I'm certainly going to see what kinds of restaurants are successful and why. It goes into some details there that I can grab for my overview of this particular industry. I can go to geography and look at across the United States, and compare, the restaurants in each region to, some of the information I'm going to find about our local area, right? I can go down to Ohio and see the numbers listed for Ohio. There's just so much information on here, that I think that you could get a really good idea of the market just from this big, overview. So I'm going to click on about this industry in the right, and I am going to grab the code that the government uses to track data for this particular industry. And then I'm going to take that code and I'm going to paste it into the census. I'm going to also look for a specific region of Portage County, Ohio. That's where we're at. We could also broaden this, but we're going to start with that. This is a little overwhelming. The tables on the left, I would ignore for a minute, and I would instead refer to the map, right? So I'm going to get information from Portage about full service restaurants, and I can see already that there are 84 establishments in Portage County that fall under that code, as being a restaurant. And I can also see the surrounding areas that I can go back and do another search for those. So I could see Cuyahoga and compare that to Portage. Cuyahoga's got a lot more cities in it, so they probably have a lot more restaurants, different statistics to use. So if I click on the profile, I get to see a little bit more about these employers, and I definitely get to see their expenses. So when you're looking at this number for payroll, it is times 1,000. So 29,000 times 1,000 is the actual total for that number. So just be cautious of that. I could also at the bottom look at the national data for this particular industry. If I click tables, I'm seeing Portage County, Ohio, information for that code, full service restaurants. If I scroll over, I can see the number of employees in this industry in those 81 restaurants. And I could see some things about payroll. And then if I scroll down, I actually have it breaks it down by the size, like the number of employees. So it looks like there are 8 restaurants that have less than 5. And then there are way more, 29, that have 10 to 19 employees. So that might be interesting. And it would be interesting to look at this versus Cuyahoga County. Like, are there really big restaurants in Cuyahoga County, or are there a lot of little ones? Well, how does that compare to Portage, you know? And that might give me information as a business owner as to where is it, where do I want to start this business? Like, is it already saturated, the market? And then I just clicked on pages and it took me to this quick facts, right? And the quick facts is going to show you information for cities and towns with a population of 5,000 or more. And this is going to be more demographic. So I can find out, things about people's race. I can find out things about people's housing. And some of these things, depending on whatever business you're working on, your demographics, the people you're serving, are going to matter. Your consumers, like, are people educated? How's the economy there? Are they going to have transportation if I'm going to try to get them to go out to whatever? So some of this geography, or I'm sorry, demographic information is really, really helpful. And I can also search at the top for more places around Ohio. And then across the top, I've got some other things. There's a table, and that compares all of the counties in Ohio and the population, which is really neat. And at the top, do you see where it says select a fact? I could pick a different fact besides population and compare that. I could compare it by maps just by hovering over each part of the map. And I can even like zoom in on the places in the map. So if you were really wanting to zoom in on some of these things, now it's just showing you population right now. But if you picked a different fact from the drop down at the top, you would see different, statistics about different things for people. So that could be super useful for a business. And then what else can we look at? Let's see. Now I'm going to take you to Nexis Uni. And in this case, there's a lot of information, but I'm just going to start with a simple search of small business restaurants and see what I find. And this is going to take me to things like case studies, like legal case studies. It's also going to take me to news about business. And I can narrow it down by the type. Like, I want to look at the trade publications. Like, we started talking about that the other day, and I think it would be interesting to know things specifically from people recommending it in my field. And then geography, I definitely would narrow it down to North America because that's where we're at. And we're doing a more regional, investigation here. So you could look through those and see if anything relates to what you're talking about. But really, don't be afraid to like poke around in all the things at the top too. Like, this has grants that I could write. I'm seeing local business, snapshots or case studies. Across the top, there's a market insight button or tab where I could type in some more search terms and see what I can find out about it from industry reports. So that'll get me more info. There is a whole section where you can search specific companies. You can even make a list of companies. If you click on that company button, it has a create list. And you can narrow that down by size, by the sorts of businesses, or you could just type in your search and see what comes up. So Nexis Uni has so much information. And since this is a database, it will create a citation for you, which is really nice. And then I think I'm going to double back and look at one more thing to show you. Just a second. Okay, yeah, across the top, if you go to the power search button, the tab at the top, power search, it helps you come up with a string of terms. So like, I'm going to put in restaurant, and then you'll see how it sort of like prompts me to think of other words that might go with that and how to combine them. And I can also browse at the bottom too by terms. So by geography or people or subject. Okay, so restaurant, small business, and I'm also going to put market in there because that's what we're talking about is a market overview. We're nearly done. I'm sorry this is taking forever. But check it out. The first article, Small Business Restaurant Marketing Strategies for Sustainability. That's totally relevant, right? If I were thinking about, um, you know, small businesses. So, and I can also get the citation, get the whole article here. So if you have any questions, let me know. I know this is a lot in one video. Good luck. Come see me.